Hello and welcome to the English box. Today we're going to talk about the past simple tense. The past simple is used to describe finished actions in the past. Now let's begin by looking at the structure. We're going to look at regular verbs. To form a regular verb in the past, all you do is take the infinitive and add ed. For example, with the verb play, you add ed to the end of the verb and it becomes played. However, there are some difficulties or differences concerning the spelling of the word. For example, if the word ends in consonant Y, such as the verb study, you have to remove or take away the Y and add IED. So study becomes studied. If the verb ends in a vowel and then a consonant, such as stop, you have to double the consonant and add ed. So stop becomes stopped with two P's. If the verb ends in an E, then you have to just add a D. So live becomes lived, for example. Okay, moving on from that, we can look at the structure of entire sentences. So as always, we have to start a sentence in the past simple with the subject, and then the verb, and then the object. So the subject, I, you, he, she, it, we or they, followed by the verb with ed for regular verbs, and then the object. For example, I played tennis yesterday. If we look at the sentence in negative, we can see that you have to add the auxiliary didn't between the subject and the verb. And the verb is no longer in the past form, rather it is in the infinitive form. So, I did not, or contracted, I didn't play tennis yesterday. As a question, the auxiliary verb did has to come first, and then the subject, and then the infinitive, and then the object. So, did you play tennis yesterday? It's very important to note here that we use the infinitive form of the verb in the negative and in the question form, and not the past form. So, an exercise for you to complete now. We have 5 different sentences, all in the past simple positive. Your job is to change these sentences into positive questions. So remember, you'll need the auxiliary first, did, followed by the subject, followed by the verb in infinitive. So the 5 sentences are: you played football yesterday, you watched television this morning, you laughed at the joke, you hunted deer last week, and you considered the meaning of life yesterday. So pause the video, and when you come back, we'll move on to the next slide. So here's the next slide with the answers. You played football yesterday. Did you play football yesterday? She watched television this morning. Did she watch television this morning? They laughed at the joke. Did they laugh at the joke? He hunted deer last week. Did he hunt deer last week? And I considered the meaning of life yesterday. Did I consider the meaning of life yesterday? A nice existential question for you there. Unfortunately, there are many irregular verbs in English. If you look at the slide in front of you now, you'll see the irregular verbs, some of the most common irregular verbs, with translations into Spanish and German. So if you're Spanish and German, these will help you. If you're not, then you can learn a little bit of Spanish and German at the same time. So, here's the first list. In a few seconds, I'll move on to the second list, you can pause and learn, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So here's the second slide. And finally, the third slide. So these are the most common irregular verbs. You have the first column in the present simple. The second column is the past form of the word or the verb. And the third column is the past participle form for the use in the perfect tenses. Okay. And the third column is the past participle form for the use in the perfect tenses. Okay. I looked at and studied those irregular verbs. We have a quick exercise for you. So here you have 4 sentences, all with irregular verbs, and you have to change these sentences once again into question forms. So you have: you chose the chicken dish, they bought new shoes, they became famous overnight, and she lost her car keys. So pause the video again, and then we'll look at the answers. So here are the answers. You chose the chicken dish should be: did you choose the chicken dish? They bought new shoes should be: did they buy new shoes? He became famous overnight should be: did he become famous overnight? And she lost her car keys should be: did she lose her car keys?